I slept well that night, but I didn't see Cyrus when I woke up the next day. The maid told me he had already gone to the company. The maid brought me a stewed chicken soup, and I had just taken a few sips when I received a call from Ella. She said she wanted to meet me. I could hear the anger in her voice, so I assumed they had a very unpleasant time last night. Ding! Wisnovel reminds you to click the subscribe button in the bottom right corner to read the complete novel. After finishing the chicken soup, I went to her house. As soon as I entered, Ella knelt down in front of me. What kind of trick is this? I stepped back a few steps, with my arms crossed in front of my chest. It's not even New Year. Why are you giving me such a big gift? My words made Ella turn pale with anger. She suppressed her anger and said to me, April, please help clarify what happened yesterday. Now Oswald is being scolded by those people, and the Hathor family's reputation has also been greatly affected. Ella appeared gentle and weak, but she was extremely fierce inside. In my previous life, she deceived Oswald with this harmless face. After I donated my corneas to her, she pretended to be kind and offered to take care of me. But after I went blind, she often scolded and beat me. She even deliberately placed boiling water on the edge of the table, watching me get burned, and she warned me not to tell anyone, otherwise she would torture me in 1,000 ways. I later found out that she wasn't blind at all. She just pretended to gain Oswald's sympathy. Now that she's fallen into my hands, it's time to settle the score from the previous life. I sneered, what does his scolding have to do with me? She grabbed my trouser leg and said, April, I know you still care about Oswald. Please help him. I pushed her away. Are you crazy? Oswald is a treasure to you, but to me, he's just rubbish. She fell to the ground and slapped herself in the face. At that moment, Oswald appeared at the door. He rushed to Ella and asked anxiously, are you okay? It's the familiar act again. In my previous life, she often used this trick to frame me. With tears in her eyes, Ella said with a pitiful tone, I just want her to clarify what happened yesterday. I didn't expect her to be so angry. It's my fault that I've implicated you. I was almost moved by her words. Oswald looked at me with resentment. She's blind. Why are you bullying her? I sneered. She fell by herself just now. I didn't even touch her. Then did you hit her face? Oswald was so concerned. Ella didn't use much force at all. The redness on her face was all makeup. She used to do this often. Oswald, it's my fault. It has nothing to do with April. Looking at the foolish Oswald, I suddenly felt some sympathy for him. Since she wanted to frame me, I might as well admit to it. After all, Oswald had already misunderstood. I stepped forward and swung my arm, hitting her right cheek hard. The slap made my hand numb. I deliberately moved my hand slightly upwards while hitting. Ella was instantly dazed. Her right cheek swelled up instantly, looking like a pig's head. My eye hurts so much. Oswald roared, you're insane. I moved my wrist and said, take a good look. This is what I did. I admit to what I did, but don't try to pin anything on me that I didn't do. After saying that, I took out my phone and dialed 911. Hello, someone has fallen here. Ella felt guilty when she saw me making the call. Oswald, I'm scared. I don't want to go to the hospital. If she went to the hospital, wouldn't she be exposed? All right, we won't go. Oswald stood up, walked over to me, snatched the phone from my hand, and threw it on the ground. What are you trying to do? His grip was too strong, and I staggered backward. In the next second, I was caught by a strong arm. Oswald, what kind of skill is it to bully a woman? I looked up and realized it was Cyrus. Cyrus, how did you get here? Cyrus pulled me behind him and said, I saw a little cake on the roadside and wanted to bring it back for you. That's how I knew you were here. A little cake? How did you know I like to eat little cakes? Cyrus lightly tapped my nose and said, I also know that you like me. This sweet talk seemed a bit greasy, but it was just right at the moment. Oswald looked at us flirting and teasing each other, feeling like he was about to vomit blood. This is not the Sanford house. If you want to show affection, go home and do it. It was only then that I came to my senses and said, Cyrus, I think I've caused trouble. Ella accused me of hitting her. When I heard that, I got very angry and really hit her. I was just about to call 911, and my phone was also broken. Cyrus indulgently said, with me here, no one dares to accuse you falsely. After saying that, he picked up his phone to call the police and also dialed 911. When the situation is clear, I won't settle for anything less than the full amount of compensation. After a few minutes, the sound of a car horn came from outside. The police stayed to collect evidence, and the ambulance took Ella directly to the hospital. Cyrus and I followed closely behind. At the hospital, I suggested doing an injury assessment first. I even specifically reminded the doctor to be careful with her eyes. Ella panicked immediately and hugged Oswald, saying, Oswald, I'm scared. Are you so scared because you're pretending to be blind? So you dare not let the doctor examine them? My words hit Ella's weak spot. This is a hospital. What are you afraid of? Oswald also advised, listen, it's okay. It's just an examination. If there really is something wrong, I will definitely get justice for you. Hearing this, I just wanted to laugh. Get justice? Don't end up with a slap in the face. When she was having the examination, I specifically warned Cyrus to be careful of Ella's tricks. He looked at me and said, do you know something? I honestly said, I think she's faking it. Cyrus's people stared at Ella the whole time, and she didn't have any chance to fake it at all. When the final examination results came out, Oswald was dumbfounded. Ella was not blind at all, and there were no minor injuries on the left side of her face, just some applied blush. Oswald was furious. Ella Kimbrough, you actually lied to me? Ella cried and said, Oswald, they must have bribed the doctor in advance to falsify the diagnosis results. I stepped forward and looked at her. At this point, you're still lying? Oswald, I actually feel quite sorry for you. You've been deceived by such a two-faced woman for so many years. It's really pathetic. Oswald stood in place, shaking with anger, tears welling up in his eyes. Why did you lie to me? Ella retreated in fear. I didn't lie to you. I didn't. Do you trust me? At this time, Cyrus's people brought some collected information to Oswald. Take a good look at these things. Oswald quickly flipped through them, his face getting worse and worse. He angrily struck Ella. Do you still have anything to say? Ella looked at the scattered papers on the ground, which not only contained records of every one of her medical visits, but also her bank transaction records of bribing the doctors. Ella knelt on the ground and pleaded bitterly. Oswald, I love you too much. I'm afraid of losing you. Oswald pushed her away. I don't want to see you again in the future. After Oswald left, Ella glared at me fiercely. It's you. It's all because of you that messed up my plan. She rushed over in anger, wanting to hit me, but was directly held back by Cyrus's men. Ella, my wife slapped you. I'll compensate you with money, Cyrus said. If you dare to cause trouble for April again, I won't let you off, he warned. This was the first time I had seen him so fierce. He opened the bag, which was full of money. He took out a stack and threw it in Ella's face. $10,000 for a slap. Is that enough? Then he turned the bag over, and the money fell all over the ground. I was stunned. What was he trying to do? As long as my wife is happy today, she can slap you as much as she wants. I will afford all the compensation. Hearing Cyrus's words, Ella cried and begged. Mr. Sanford, I know I was wrong. I looked at Oswald. My hand hurts from slapping her. And besides, I feel sorry for all this money, I added. Cyrus held my hand with a look of distress. Gently blowing on it, he said, what's your status, and what is she? This kind of thing can be handled by others. Is it necessary for you to do it yourself? Her thick skin and rough flesh even hurt your fair and tender hands, he continued. I forced back a smile and only burst into laughter when we got back into the car. Cyrus, you are unbelievable. You crack me up. Ha ha ha. He looked at me indulgently. Were you satisfied just now? I laughed breathlessly. Cyrus, you're amazing. I took the initiative to kiss him. Cyrus didn't look very satisfied. Is that all? I was taken aback. Huh? The next moment, his hand supported the back of my head and he kissed me again. His tongue entered my mouth and I blushed from the kiss. I could only make a whimpering sound. Cyrus whispered in my ear, don't move. After a few minutes, he finally let go of me. You're really a charming little elf. He carried me back to the room and tucked me in. You shouldn't meet them alone. If I hadn't arrived in time, I don't know how Oswald would have bullied you. Listening to his reprimand, I coquettishly said, I know I was wrong. My husband, don't be angry. When he heard the words my husband, he seemed very pleased. In the future, you're not allowed to meet other men alone. Especially Oswald, he added. It was the first time I had seen him so serious. Okay, I got it, I said. It was rumored that Cyrus was decisive and ruthless. But after these days of getting along, I felt that he was not as terrifying as outsiders had said. I couldn't help but ask him, why are you so good to me? Do you really not remember me? He said with a hint of loss in his tone. Did I know him before? What do you mean? Nothing, he replied. I always felt that he had something on his mind. Today, I was in a great mood and soon fell asleep. In the middle of the night, the phone suddenly rang. It was Oswald calling. I hung up directly. Unexpectedly, he called again. Afraid of disturbing Cyrus, I had to go out quietly to answer. Impatiently, I asked, what do you want? Oswald cried on the other end of the phone. April, I was wrong. All the ways I treated you before were because of Ella's deception. I just realized now that I have never stopped caring about you. April, I love you. If I had heard these words in my past life, I would have fallen in love in minutes. But now I have changed. His words meant nothing to me. Oswald Hather, let's part ways amicably. The person I like now is Cyrus Sanford. I don't believe it. I don't believe you could fall for someone else so quickly. You must be trying to make me jealous, right? Oswald, wake up. No one will wait for you to come to your senses. Don't contact me again. I don't want to give Cyrus the wrong idea. As soon as I hung up the phone, I bumped into Cyrus as I turned around. I instinctively explained, it was Oswald's call. I was afraid you would misunderstand, so he hugged me tightly. I know. I heard everything. He took off his coat and put it on me. It's cold outside. What if you catch a cold? Back in the room, we embraced and slept. The next morning, Cyrus brought me the latest model of a mobile phone. He changed to a new SIM card inside. I looked at the old phone next to me. Actually, this old phone still works. You are now Mrs. Sanford. If I give you such an old phone, others might think I'm mistreating you. On the other hand, I don't want Oswald to contact you again. Cyrus is really a jealous guy. He continued to explain. I installed a locator tracker inside. If you have any problems, I can find you immediately. After breakfast, I was ready to go to work at the company. Although marrying Cyrus meant I didn't need to worry about money, I couldn't just stay at home like a canary. Cyrus insisted insisted on driving me to the company, saying he worried about me. When he saw me enter the company, he left. It attracted a lot of colleagues to watch for a while. April, we are so envious of you, actually marrying such a handsome man. If I were you, with Cyrus being so rich, I wouldn't come to work. Exactly, it would be so nice to have a maid waiting at home. Listening to their words, I could only smile politely. Because I had become Mrs. Sanford, the company's leaders were especially polite to me. They assigned most of the work to others, so I could only take out my phone and play games. Near the end of the workday, Cyrus called to say he had something urgent at his company and couldn't come to pick me up. I told him to let him do his work first, and I would take a taxi back. After get off work, I left the company and stood on the roadside about to hail a taxi. At this time, a limited edition Maybach stopped in front of me. A middle-aged man got out of the passenger seat and politely said, "Madam, the young master sent me to pick you up." I had never seen this man in the Sanford house, but there were many servants in the Sanford family. Without much thought, I got into the car. Unexpectedly, as soon as I closed the door, it was locked from the outside. Then I smelled a pungent odor, and my vision went black as I fainted. When I woke up again, I found myself hanging on the edge of a cliff with the sea below. I screamed in fear. Where am I? April, you've made me suffer so much. Why don't we play a game? Let's see if Oswald or Cyrus will come to save you. Ella was wearing a leather jacket, looking terrifying. You're crazy. She laughed in a chilling manner. I am crazy, driven mad by you and Oswald. Why is it that no matter what I do, Oswald refuses to love me? Do you know that last night, after drinking too much, he was still calling your name? I sneered. You brought this upon yourself. Ella's eyes were full of hatred. No, it's all your fault. If you hadn't told him about my illness, we would have been married soon. Oswald promised to take care of me for the rest of my life. Seeing her self-deceptive appearance, I felt nothing but pity in my heart. You know better than anyone that the Hathor family will never accept a woman like you. Hitting a sore spot, Ella was so angry that the corners of her mouth twitched. I won't let you have what I can't have. I'm going to make them watch you die in front of their eyes. I thought that giving her some punishment would make her repent, but she showed no remorse. Now I could only count on Cyrus. He had installed a tracking device in my phone. An hour passed, and I still didn't see their figures. It seems that they don't care about you as much as I thought. An hour has passed, and there's no sign of anyone. April, just rest assured and die. She took out a knife from her waist and started cutting the rope. I faintly heard the sound of the rope slowly breaking. Was I really going to die here? A huge sense of fear overwhelmed me, and I closed my eyes in fear. Just as I was about to fall, I heard their voices. April! Cyrus rushed over as if he were crazy, kicking Ella away. Then he held on to the last section of the rope with all his might. Seeing him, tears welled up in my eyes. Don't be afraid, I'll pull you up. He held onto the rope tightly, his palm staining it red with blood, but refusing to let go. The edge of the cliff was crumbling, and half of his body was dangling. At this rate, both of us would die. Cyrus, let go. We'll both die like this. No, you didn't let go of my hand back then. After holding on for a few seconds, we both fell into the sea. As I was drowning, a memory flashed through my mind. When I was 10, I saw a boy being pushed into the school pond. He struggled in the water, shouting for help, while the onlookers scattered. I reached out and grabbed him, but I was too weak and ended up falling into the pond with him. When I was rescued, I fell seriously ill, and that memory disappeared. Since then, I had been especially afraid of water. It turned out that the boy was Cyrus. I felt my body sinking slowly and my consciousness fading. When I woke up, both of us were lying on the beach. Cyrus was soaked through, and I kept calling out to him, "Cyrus, wake up." But there was no response from him, and I went crazy, calling his name nonstop and performing CPR. "Cyrus, I won't let you die. I remember who you are now." I cried uncontrollably, and he suddenly smiled. "If you kiss me again, I'll wake up." I was so angry that I punched and kicked his chest. "Cyrus, you jerk. I was so worried about you, and you're still joking with me." He pulled me into his arms. "I was really happy to see how worried you were just now, because I know you care about me. A love that goes both ways is worth looking forward to. Cyrus Sanford, I missed you in the last life. This life, I want to hold your hand and grow old with you."